When's version 8 coming out?
Version 8. I did not know that that was far away, to be honest. I should preface this by saying I'm not a 100% Akiba expert or a CIBA. I'm not even sure how you say it, Akiba or a CIBA. I've done a lot of work with the system recently and built some templates with it and worked with the automation. But yeah, there's a lot of aspects of the system, and I don't spend all my time on their forums. But so I couldn't tell you when version 8 is just out or is coming out, unfortunately.
Well, you use the terms ACYBA and Akiba. They're two different companies.
Yeah, I know. Well, if some people say, yeah, you're right. My problem is I used to always say ACY Mailing, and then I heard someone say AC Mailing, and I'm like, well, how do you say their company name then, which is ACYBA? It'd probably be a CIBA, I guess. Yes. I'll have to avoid that.
Yeah, speaking about Akiba and admin tools, I'm seeing some interesting attempts from Russia of late, although it's slowed down. I think the Russian internet apparently doesn't exist fully the way it used to.
A few spam emails from Russia not long after it started, but they seem to have stopped for some reason.
Yeah, strange.
It was mostly advertising Bitcoin though, which I was kind of thought was odd.
They've lifted the game a bit if the junk mail coming from Russia concerns Bitcoin.
Past the hour, so I suppose, Nathan, you could just about kick off any more time, really.
Cool. That's good.
You need me to make you a host, I suppose.
That'll help, yeah.
I can do that.
Just trying to work out which desktop to share.
Just share them all, Nathan.
Share them all? Yeah, good. Wrong one. That's good. So I want a view and browser link here, but I want a little bit of space above it. So I put in a spacer, which is one of the things that's included with the builder element. So it's getting there. It's starting to look like my template, but not quite. One of the things that I'm missing is my font, in that this particular client's using a Google font. Over in the general settings, you'll see we've got font families. We don't have a great range. It's just the kind of web-safe fonts. Apparently integration with Google Fonts is coming, but it's not quite there yet. So you have to do a little workaround, which we do with the Add Custom Style Sheet button here. So, a bit of CSS I prepared earlier. Let's copy that part. Now, the one thing with the Google fonts is that they display in this and they display in the actual emails, but they don't display in the edit window. This would be the integration that people are waiting for, so that it does. I haven't found that to be too big a problem. It seems to, it's not a big impediment to actually editing the email. Now, where am I? Okay. I'm going to go and fix up my footer here, so I don't like this very much. Now, ACY Mailing supports setting a background image on the newsletter, but it will give you a message that's not supported by all email clients. In the testing I've done, it actually seems to work pretty well, and I haven't found a client yet where it doesn't. But it's not to say that they don't exist. No. So as well as setting the background image, you have to specify a transparent background. And then we get the footer as such. Okay, I'm going to add in the footer logo for this particular template. You'll notice it says up here, be careful if you insert background image, not all the email clients display them. One thing I meant to mention earlier is on these outer panels, you can also control the padding of them. So I want this one to be tight. So I'm going to go with 0, 0. I'm going to get rid of the little bottom row there. Yes. I'm just going to show one last thing, which is get rid of that button. All right. We'll also add in a modify or unsubscribe link, which I want. Probably need a little bit of spacing around that as well. Not that much. Maybe down to 20. I'll just duplicate it. Now, one thing that you'll notice with that unsubscribe link is it has the color I set before for the dynamic text. So down at the bottom, it's looking very pink. Don't particularly want that. We can, with our custom CSS, override that. So I'll dump all this in now. So essentially, if you're willing to spend the time and do the coding, you can customize it to the help with custom CSS. You can also customize the layouts if you want to get into the HTML. Oh, sorry, I forgot to demonstrate the white. So now my modify your subscription details is in white text on the background. Okay, and last thing I might show is just to demonstrate adding in some dynamic content. So I'm just going to drop in a couple of articles from the latest news. So you see here how I have a article icon, which will integrate with Joomla articles. Drop that in. It's pretty handy. It gives you a preview of what you're actually trying to include. Okay. So I'm going to select by category. Select the news category. You'll see it will auto refresh. Start displaying articles from the news category. You've got options over here in terms of the core things to display. You've got a few different layouts you can choose from. I choose that, it'll automatically try and change, except I've used the wrong image. And one nice feature is you can also include custom fields into your newsletter from Joomla articles. Okay, yeah, so nice little features. They have these different layouts. The image didn't change before because I've got it set to display the full image rather than resize. So if I change that to resized, I'll get a little thumbnail image on the left for my articles. You can also go in and customize the HTML for these dynamic plugin layouts. You'll see that there's a edit custom view where you can change the actual content. So I'll do that. When you are resizing, you can also change the width of the images. We've got also options for truncating the text. This particular client does not use the read more button, so that's kind of handy there. Yeah, a few other settings. So that's about all I was going to cover on the template side of things, as fun as that's been. You will also notice, although it's giving me an error there that time, that as you edit your template, the thumbnail on this page automatically updates to match what you've done. I said I'd touch on automation a little bit. It's going to be a very little bit, mostly just about follow-up emails, which don't live in here, they live in the emails section. So with our freshly created template, I can create a follow-up email. So this would be useful for, you know, a series of automated emails when someone subscribes to a list. So if you're trying to get them to use different features of the website, or to buy things, or to sign up for a service, you can keep hammering them with emails. So I'm going to start with that template we've been using. So I'm going to click follow-up. It's a few different kinds. This is probably another session if people are interested, but not for tonight. I'll click create. So this will be triggered when a new user subscribes. Get to select from your range of lists. Select there. Okay, so I've got to create my first follow-up email. Click on that. I'm going to start from, I might select the template I finished because it looks better. It's got got its name, it's got its subject. From names all come from the system settings. So we want to send this 0 days after the trigger. So you can choose between minutes, hours, days, weeks, and months. So there's quite a lot of options in terms of how long you want to keep harassing people for. We're going to send it 1 day after subscribing. Save and exit. So if I then want to add a second one, I can just duplicate the first one, go in and edit it, change it to 1 week after the trigger. So it'll be 1 week after they've subscribed. See, the follow-up now has 2 emails that have been sent to 0 people. It'll then give you stats on open and click rates. I go in and add another one and just start again from scratch. Duplicate another one, and obviously you would be changing the content of these emails. It's pretty quick and easy to be able to build up a series of follow-up emails to any given subscriber to a list. Yep, that's about all I've got for tonight. Any questions? The session does seem to possibly have been hijacked, yes.
Nathan, it's Greg. Where in that setup was the actual list name or audience identified?
Yep. So it was set in the trigger, which was on a user subscribe. Once you've set up a follow-up, you can't change the trigger, by the way, so it's set to user subscribe. So the first condition I set was which list they'd subscribe to.
Okay.
Yep, and so you've got lists over here, like you would in ACY Mailing 5. Or I've set that up. You can do a welcome email like you could in ACY Mailing 5 as well. But yeah, I was just demonstrating that you can do it with the follow-ups. Yeah, it's in the conditions, I guess. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with ACY Mailing's automations. It has a range of add-ons, so integrations with other components. I've used the events booking one quite a bit to display upcoming events in a newsletter, which is quite handy. So there's a few different ones. And more getting released pretty regularly. The one I particularly like, though, is the universal filter, which is particularly good for the automation side of things, not so much the sending of the content, but it basically lets you filter ACY Mailing subscribers based on any data from your database. So you can check if someone's subscribed to a subscription plan in Membership Pro or any other component that's not covered with the built-in integrations. You can send automated emails based on the data in those MySQL tables. And that's all done through the automation section where you can create various automations, but yeah, that will take too long to go through now, and I'm not prepared for it. You can execute them at various times, all sorts of triggers and things. It's quite powerful. But, yeah.
And who are you using for your actual mail transport? Like which email provider, or are you using your own mail servers or what?
Depends, yeah. So the 2 largest clients I have using ACY Mailing both have their own VPSs that are on very high level plans. So the mail is sent through those VPSs and runs at about 300 emails every 15 minutes, I guess. The best you can do on a shared hosting plan is about 75 every 15 minutes. But it kind of depends on what kind of deliverability or service you're wanting to do with your newsletters. I mean, obviously things like Campaign Monitor and Mailchimp, etc., will send instantly because they have massive banks of servers to send it through, but you also lose the integration with things like the articles, Joomla articles or events booking or all the other add-ons you might have in your Joomla install.
Okay, I'm using our own hosting provider, and they allow 1,000 emails an hour. No,
Easy.
1,000 emails an hour. Yes.
Yep.
But that includes other emails coming through the system, so you can't use all of that for.
This is true. Yep.
AC mailing. I've looked into some of the. What do you call these companies that provide like Mailchimp?
Like SendGrid there are others like SendGrid and Campaign Monitor who provide an SMTP service. So if you need high volume mail, but you want to maintain the integration, then you can try and convince your client to pay for the SMTP version of their services. Which works quite well if it's applicable to the client. I had one a while ago who was keen to send them pretty quickly. We looked at SendGrid, I think it was, and they kind of went, I don't need to send them that quickly. So, and, they were still going at 300 every 15 minutes or something, but it was a case where it was an art gallery that's running a launch or an online exhibition. And so they wanted everybody to get the email straight away. So if you're doing those kind of things, then you need that higher level kind of hardware running behind it, I think.
I've set this up with Amazon SES a while ago. The Amazon side of things wasn't entirely intuitive, but it wasn't too bad. And to send, I think, 5,000 emails happened pretty much instantly, and I think it cost me 20 cents. Well, it cost the client 20 cents, but yeah, there are some the integration with things like Amazon and is it Mandrill? Just make the whole process so much easier. Take all of the headache off your server, and it's built in.
Yeah, so you'll see here there's a heap of different options for the mail providers. This is just running on my development service. That's just using PHP. They recommend Sendinblue, who are a partner apparently, but it's got that's pretty much the full range of the big ones in terms of Mailgun, SendGrid, AWS, and Elastic Mail. And it has all of the anti-spam stuff that you need. These testing feature that they have integrated is quite good as well with the spam mail tester when it comes to actually sending an email. I'm not going to do that because I haven't configured this server. But,
I looked at Sendinblue and perhaps one of the others, and they seem to want to have your mailing list uploaded to them in advance. Have I misunderstood that? Or
I think so, yeah. No, I've not come across that. It's more about, so if I change to Sendinblue, all I'm asked for here is my API key. You can test the credentials. Okay, so synchronize existing users. So there must be something with the integration whereby it uploads your users to their service, I guess. But I would assume that just happens in the background.
The Amazon SES process starts from memory. You have to have a couple of emails sent to verify that you are legitimately using their email service, but you can use a couple of dummy email accounts for that, and then it just fires it out. It's almost like it's using Amazon as an SMTP gateway. That's the kind of the effect, but no uploading of usernames and passwords.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a lot more straightforward than setup. It's just username and password. So
yeah, the guessing the username and password is the tricky bit.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And getting your account unblocked. So they'll give you, I think they'll give you like 24 hours, I think, just to play around with it. And then you have to contact their support to ask them basically to open it up. And yeah.
Cool.
One of the biggest issues that we found with using a mail server through our web hosting service is the mail servers are shared amongst all of the clients of the hosting service, and you often get blacklisted through no fault of your own because the IP address of the mail server has been used by someone else, and Telstra or Yahoo, which is whoever, have blacklisted that IP, and then you've got to go through a rigmarole of getting it unblocked. Has anyone got any solutions to this issue? Because obviously spam blocking is a legitimate exercise, but it seems overzealous. They block things for no good reason, and you end up having to do a lot of work to get the blacklistings cleared, or at least the hosting server does.
Yeah, I'm not on mute. There are services that you can use as a third party. What's the word? Sending service, I guess, a bit like Amazon SES, but not them. I think MailGuard is one, but they're paid services. So you could use MailGuard as a both inbound and outbound mail service. You host the mail, they do the filtering. So they do the spam filtering, and of course they also do, they provide a range of IPs of their servers that are constantly cleaned or groomed, or whatever word you want to use, so that you're not suffering from that a bad apple sort of, impacts everybody. So, but there are a few of them out there. I know I've got one client using MailGuard, and I saw a couple of others, but I can't remember what they were called just recently. So,
just on the question from Britt and Jenny about whether you need Amazon to use ACY Mailing, I guess, or use that system for a small business, I would say no. I mean, I've got quite a few small businesses on shared hosting that use ACY Mailing, but they don't need to send out 1,000 emails an hour. Their newsletter is a once a month kind of thing, or once every couple of months. It doesn't matter if it turns up at 9 o'clock in the morning or 12 p.m. So they just set it at a low rate of 50 to 75 emails every 15 minutes, and it goes out fine. So I guess it's just a question of what your requirements are in terms of volume and speed, I think.
There's also the sort of, not protection, but dealing with all the bounces. It just, using a third-party service just makes it just that little bit easy. But Mailchimp kind of does conceptually that, well, you could use your own template in Mailchimp, I suppose, but nevertheless.
I mean, I think Mailchimp's a perfectly fine solution for lots of people, and it's easy to set up. And if you don't need integration with your CMS, then knock yourself out. It's probably the easiest way to do it. But I think it's good to have other options that provide a bit more integration with Joomla and.
Yeah, CompoJoom has a component that integrates Mailchimp with Joomla, just from getting people to subscribe, unsubscribe to your list. That's about as deep as the functionality goes. But everything else you would do through the Mailchimp interface, which, the last time I checked, wasn't too bad. And you get all of the analytics with Mailchimp. It's just when you get above 2,000 subscribers that it starts getting, Mailchimp starts getting expensive.
It does, yeah. But, most of the times I've used ACY Mailing, it's because clients have wanted to have that ability to do more automation kind of things. I did it. Terry and I used it recently to build an absolutely horrible automated email system for a client that sends 19 emails over about 4 or 5 weeks. I think it's called, what do they call it? Evergreen marketing or some shit.
Oh, yes.
But it was very handy for doing that. It also let us integrate via Zapier with e-webinar online systems, get whether people are registering or not, and whether they'd watched the webinar and all that kind of stuff. So there is some kind of higher level stuff you can do with it. Russell, the plain text version is generated automatically by ACY Mailing, but you can create your own or edit your own version. I just didn't go into that as well. So yeah, it basically just strips out all of the, all of the images and leaves you basically the text-based version, but you can go in and edit that as well. And actually, I was wondering a little while ago why there was no alt tag for images, and then it only occurred to me yesterday. I was like, oh yeah, of course, because it's a text-based version, it just strips them out. Spam checking, yeah, it has integration with spamtester.com, I think it is. So when you go to send, you can run spam tests. It basically comes back and gives you a score out of 10. It also tells you what you've done wrong or what the issues are, whether it's an SPF record, or you should improve your DKIM, or you've got broken links in your HTML email. Gives you a pretty good checklist of things to fix. And most of the time I've found that when you go and fix those things, you pass the spam test. Yeah, so integration with the website, Jenny, I guess is not so much about SEO, maybe a bit more to do with branding. It's for example, if you're providing a membership-based website and you want to deliver content to members based on actions they might perform or how long they've been a member, you might just want to send them a birthday gift or something. You have that information because they've registered and provided you with those details. And a lot of that information doesn't exist in Mailchimp. So yeah, if you don't need those things, then Mailchimp's perfectly fine. If you just need to pop in a few images and post a link to something on your website, then it will certainly get the job done. Russell, that's a good question. Office 365. Yeah, it's a nightmare, essentially. You mean to clients who are using Office 365? Then yeah, it's actually the only problem I actually had with it was trying to set up a bounce email, because you need to set up the bounce mailbox at Office 365. You're meant to be able to connect to Office 365 via SMTP, despite numerous support emails with the clients, IT people and Microsoft. I could not make that happen.
No, they're so bad at that. It's the Office 365 agents. They are really, their technical knowledge of mail handling is less than you would like.
There's a plain how-to on how to configure your Office address, Office 365 for SMTP. It just doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah, right.
I tried setting it up in ACY Mailing, then I tried in just a mail client, like just setting up a basic SMTP. Didn't matter, just wouldn't work. So it seems unless you're coming from part of the system, it just doesn't work. So that was the client who we looked into using the third-party service for, because they wanted to send a little bit higher volume. But yeah, Office 365 is problematic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's giving me all kinds of problems, probably for the last 6 months. It's become a due diligence issue for me. Yes, right. Yeah, it's absolutely no good to use for an outgoing server. Like, you can't configure it to use SMTP because they have really quite conservative limits on the accounts in terms of how much you can send through Office 365 as an outgoing email. So you're pretty much restricted to using a third-party service, I think. Yeah. And then you got to build that into your SPF record and, all your other authentication as well. Yeah. So one of the things I do love about ACY Mailing is the way it handles bounces. And when you've got the standard kind of service set up, it does it brilliantly. Or your spam emails to subscribe or whatever just get, ditched basically every time it runs. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can't set that up, it's, you know, losing one of its better features for sure. Sorry if that was disjointed, that presentation. It was quite difficult with the incursions going on.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do a bit of careful cutting to cut those bits out of the soundtrack, I think, Nathan, to make your presentation flow a bit better.
I was wondering how you might do that, Stuart. It was like, yeah, when you stop the recording, I thought you'd just given up.
Oh, no, I stopped it just there so I could sort of isolate some of it. So
yeah.
Patrick mentioned a Zoom hack as the cause of that. Is any?
Yeah. So
what do you actually mean by that?
no. So what was happening was while I was watching participants go up and down for a while. David, well, I think almost every user on the call was flashing up with secondary users, and the second instance in the call was the one making the noise. And so watching it for about 10 minutes when it was doing it, it just kicked off and went nuts. So I'm surprised that it stopped, but it may be simply that whoever's Zoom client software triggered left the call at some point. So yeah.
they left the call because I barred them. I saw the name change on one account, so I reported and blocked them. So that seemed to slow it down.
Okay, so whether that was depending on who that was, but it's interesting to see, that it was jumping around quite a lot. I even saw myself make a noise once in the outcome there. So but yes, there has been a major couple of versions of the Zoom client released, and weirdly, you have to be logged into Zoom for desktop to be able to get to the point where you can update it. So once you're logged in, you go to your avatar and there'll be a check for update button. But of course, it won't update during the call. So you'll need to do that post-event to see what happens. But very surprised that it's taken us 2 years to get a problem in Zoom, the number of Zooms we've done. Some of the other user groups stopped publicly promoting their Zoom link. You had to sort of be in the know and in the group to get the link, because they were getting Zoom bombed regularly in London for a while. So
I just thought it was Nathan's music taste that secretly he was hiding from us, but clearly not.
No.
So is the link for the...
My music tastes are a bit heavier than that, Brick.
I thought like hardcore. Thrown in there. Yeah.
Is the link for the meetup session actually public?
If you know where to go, it's public. So it's actually on the button on the virtual user group link. But that said,
you've only got to have a meetup account, I think.
Yeah. So you had to RSVP via Meetup, or you could get it from the news page on the Joomla website, which I don't know that many people ever go to. So, someone might have randomly got it. But that said, everybody that I've seen tonight in the participant list is someone that had RSVP'd. So theoretically, everybody's legit. Whether it's a problem we encounter next time, I hope not. But update your Zoom client would be my tip. Mine looks to be 3 or 4 months out of date. And a news article I found went through all the changes that have happened. And one of the most recent fixes is to fix this exact problem. So, fun and games. So.
Cool.
My Zoom client updates automatically. There's a setting there somewhere. So
that was only
usually says update me now.
Yeah, that was only introduced about 9 months ago. So if you happen to be, if your Zoom happens to be a client that's older than that, it won't automatically prompt to auto update. So, yeah.
There's a setting that says automatically keep Zoom desktop client up to date. Mine says slow.
Yeah, and then if you change it to fast, it'll
update all the time.
Yeah, it's like a beta release.
Yeah, I'm sure want that either. So.
Well, yeah.
Couldn't it just do regular updates of stable releases? Like there's
whether the stable release actually has the fix for some of the problems that they have is another matter as well. So yeah. But, so thanks for that, Nathan. Everybody's about to start getting Joomla Australia spam because during the course of the meeting I've upgraded from 5 to 7 on the Joomla Australia site. And we'll go through and be
hang out some follow-ups.
Yeah. So I had many years where I was sending 45. I think for about 5 years I was sending 45,000 emails every 2 weeks for a particular client, and then that project moved off onto some other. Went to a private equity firm. So it must have been doing all right. And then have sort of gone off the newsletter path, having touched on Mailchimp and not really enjoyed that. The ACY mailing interface certainly looks a lot more relaxed than Mailchimp does for several of the features. And then the other one I've been using was Sendy, which sends with Amazon ACS. But that's quite rudimentary compared to having a built-in. Its one drawback is that it's missing a built-in responsive editor. So I think I can probably safely move from Sendy to ACY Mailing now, and also convince several Mailchimp clients that are integrated with WordPress to look at ACY Mailing as well. So
I think that was a feature I really liked, because we've got a client that sends out a monthly or quarterly actually newsletter to a very small subscription base, but it needs to have a quarter's worth of emails, links to articles. So like seasonal articles related to the growing conditions, etc. So that automatic feed is just awesome. It just seems like a really good feature.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of setup. Like I've used it for a couple of clients, mostly with event booking, because it's training colleges or whatever who run courses, so they send out their monthly email and it just automatically displays the next 3 months worth of courses. And a little bit of work to edit the templates to get it looking right, but once it's set up, they love it. I just like, this is great, it just happens.
Yeah, that was a big win for me, because I know it's painful with the way they're doing it. They're not even integrating with their website. They just send it through Mailchimp, all of it. So it would certainly be good if that whole automation and integration could happen. It would make sense.
I think Russell's used the RS Mail one a bit, and it has some integration as well, I think, doesn't it, Russell?
Yes, it does. It's got enough for most purposes, but the real difference with what you've shown us is it doesn't have a builder. Doesn't have a builder for the mail content. That is a nice thing.
So the sweet point will be moving a Mailchimp client across. With some familiar tools that will make sense to them.
Like it's nice to be able to build those emails, particularly if you've got customers and they got demand. They've got a number of people managing these lists and all the rest of it. If there's some movement in that area, then you want mail editing facilities. Over the years, what I picked up a bunch of templates from an open source organization called Cerberus, and they have template bodies that includes all these CSS hacks, to get around all the different email clients. And I've been using those for a number of years, and I've got them set up so that I only have to replace around about 5 paragraphs in the mail body. And then it goes out, and I get consistent results. But it's a long way from being able to build it visually in a page builder. That would be nicer if you had to do that kind of work on a regular basis. Sure. It looks to me like the mails that they're building are still table based, rather than div structures. Like it's almost like nothing has changed in email land in the last 15 years. It is just ridiculous.
No,
can't they get their shit together for once?
I did mean to show a preview of one of the emails, the email client, and then show the source code. And yeah, essentially it does all of that heavy lifting at the back end. So it's still tables, it's still bloody font classes and all those kind of things. It's just, it's bizarre.
Unforgivable, honestly, after all this time, really.
Yeah.
Although I've seen some clever CSS that you can apply to the tables that basically turns it into a fully responsive CSS div, but it just doesn't. The biggest problem is Microsoft Outlook.
Yep.
Is not compliant, and so it breaks everything. So you've got the alternative there. So
yeah.
And it hasn't gotten better with 2019 that came out.
No, I don't know. I reckon that they're a captive of their own broken standards.
True.
And that there's just too much dead weight behind that stuff that they built into Outlook, and they can't drag themselves out of it, like what is it, like Brer Rabbit in the tar pit or something.
Remember in ACY Mailing 5, all the templates come with all that CSS as well. It's like sort of in their out of the box templates, there's all this CSS to cater for different things. Yep. And if the client went in and touched it through the JCE editor and just destroy it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I have to use Code Mirror when I edit emails on site, because Code Mirror won't break the CSS in the mail bodies, which is a thing. I've got to keep my eye on that. Every so often I still break the bastards.
Yeah, so there's a few of you who, like me, who've been battling these horrific things for years. HTML emails. It's just, and I agree with you, Russell. It's just an absolute outrage that nothing's ever been done about it. But
yeah.
So when I first used this about 6 months ago, and I was like, I didn't want to use it. I was kind of, had my regular aversion to builders. Then kind of got in there and went it, and hang on, that was an hour and a half, and I've built pretty good looking newsletter here. That's actually pretty good. And I thought, yeah, that's better than the 12 hours it used to take.
Yeah. Well, I was impressed when you said that ACY Mailing has a foundation for email content composition. And that's really what's needed. Somebody's got to sit down and do that structuring and get that foundation right so that it works in your target clients. And that's definitely a big point in its favour. I didn't know it had that.
For sure, yeah. I think that's the clever thing they've done, is build that interface to it. And you can tell that when you're using it, it's still a little bit, in progress. There's still the odd glitch and things you kind of need to get used to, but they do.
CSS is full of that.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not sure whether they're using React or native JS or what, but it's, doing a lot of conversion on the fly when you're using the editor to produce, the different layouts, I guess, or the different CSS for the different clients. But they do seem to release updates sort of, very frequently, at least monthly. So
thanks, Nathan. Patrick, have we got any other general news? And